What's going on here is much more complex than that.
Can we skip this? Like, hit the skip button or something?
Oh, you don't want to skip this.
Yes, we do.
Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is my South Park Stick of Truth hardcore video walkthrough. We're having to go home because it's late and it's past our bedtime, so you want to just backtrack from Cooper Keep to your new house. The easiest way to spot your house is the one with the for sale sign out the front. That's the one. And then once you're in here, it's going to trigger a sequence of cutscenes which is going to end in us getting abducted by aliens. And if you're a South Park fan, this is nothing new because it happens a lot in the series. I mean, it doesn't happen so much anymore, but it used to be a massive theme. And this is the first sequence of the game on the European version where you're going to have censored content, which is really sad, and it does annoy me, but it is what it is, and there's nothing we can do aside from imports and all that kind of crazy stuff, but fuck that. Oh, and I love that particular gag right there. He just takes a tiny hammer to break the alarm glass. Quality. But I haven't seen the aliens in so long in South Park that I forgot that they talk by mooing, because obviously they converse with cows a lot. So they just go moo 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 moo. Moo moo. Oh, and it does remind me of the South Park first-person shooter that was made by Acclaim back on the N64. And the game was funny, I'll give it that, but it was kind of a shitty game. Like, you spent so much time shooting turkeys, but there was some cool weapons in it. Like the fart dolls, the Terrence and Phillip fart dolls, the crazy dart machine gun. And there was what was that wind-up box that made people dance? It was that thing that, from one of the old episodes where Cartman got rosy cheeks and started dancing, but it happened on everybody. And then obviously there was the cow launcher, which sat a cow on people's heads, which was just the cerebral bore, but in South Park context. There's the Space Cache. Space Cache looks so awesome. It's that lovely shade of teal, like glowing, glittery teal. Yeah, it's worth nothing, and unfortunately our planet got locked out of the Galactic Federation because we wanted to keep the Space Cache. And Finland was buying a load of stuff. But there's a ton of equipment that you need to put on, because you do begin this sequence in your pajamas. Whenever the game changes your clothing, I know it's part of the story, but it weakens you. So you always want to change immediately into the stuff that is most useful, because if you don't, you're at a disadvantage. And I'm going to use the Crutch of Weakness for a little bit. We got it from Jimmy.
Take that elevator next to you. The probe in your asshole should interface with it.
And essentially the sequence here is we got an anal probe, but our ass was so powerful that they couldn't do what they wanted to do, so now we can use it. And we're going to be using it to open doors and activate those little alien artifacts that we saw knocking around. And it's going to enable us to teleport, do some platforming, and pretty much the main point of what's happening here is we're trying to free Randy because Randy knows a way off the ship. And there's a reoccurring joke that you're not going to see here, guys, because, you know, I've not seen it until I watched DSP's playthrough, but the warning sign that comes up tells you about it, which is essentially there's a mini-game that involves trying to free Randy from the anal probe, but every time you do it, it anal probes him more. And it's a reoccurring joke, which is completely censored in the European version. There's also the audio logs. The audio logs are fucking brilliant on this game because they're taking the piss out of just the redundancy of audio logs, which, you know, started out as a very valid way of telling a story on the move and then just became an absolute trope, much like QuickTime events and vents and sewer levels. But once you get down here, there's obviously an alien in a police uniform, which always makes me laugh, and a standard alien dude. And I'm trying to shoot them, but I've still got the arse probe on, so it doesn't work.
Moo moo.
And you'll also notice the weapon that he's using. It looks like the shock rod from Demolition Man. I've only just noticed that. I wonder if it's meant to be a reference or if it's just an old obscure South Park reference I forgot. But it looks a hell of a lot like the Demolition Man future rod. But he puts up a shield which makes his dodging Well, actually, he goes into a dodging stance, which makes him really good at dodging, and they can buff themselves with a shield. So I'm just going to throw darts, and the darts will miss, but after a while he comes out of the stance. Like, you could probably just do magic there, but you'll notice that my mana bar is not very high, and I pretty much never fill it, because I never fart, and I've already gone through this. I don't really use the farts. I appreciate that they're useful, but the only one I ever go to is the Nagasaki, because the Nagasaki is the ultimate room clearer, and later on in the game I'm going to be using it in some sequences to thin the herds of enemies and to do big damage against bosses that don't bleed. And something interesting to note too, on the original trailers and the gameplay that they showed for the game, oh, there's the censored picture. Did you see it? That's what explains what they've removed. There's a picture of a statue face palming with the European Union flag in the background.
Score! Aliens hate electricity.
Another little reference there, the Jagon. If you remember the space Jews that turned up and ended up getting drunk, and when they found out that the Earth is just a intergalactic reality TV show, and those two space Jews ended up getting really drunk and having sex with each other in a ridiculous scene, which is one of my favourites. That was, I believe, one of the one of the sex organs or something. I forget what they said. It was like, yo, I'll put your fingers in my thrusher. Oh yeah, suck my maglab. Like they had these ridiculous words for orifices, and they just really played up on it. Such a good episode. But what was I saying about the anal probe? I can't remember. But carry on, keep on moving through the level. The darts are going to be massively useful, as you've just seen. Here's the space taser, which can be blocked, and then he kills himself afterwards thanks to the status effects. And it's just a wrecking crew, an absolute wrecking crew. But I was talking about the mana, wasn't I? How I don't use the farts, which I don't really miss not using them, and I'm sure they all have really good uses. I just don't partake. But these buttons here all seem to activate these electric fences, and I believe that they're a hazard against the aliens and ourselves, so you could use them feasibly if you wanted to. There's another one of the censored screens.
Head back towards the elevator.
And then this is the final one, I believe, the final sequence of things we have to press before the boss fight. And Randy tells us, which is really useful, that the boss is weak against lightning. But I don't make any real concessions towards that to make it easier, because the fight is easy enough with the setup that we have. So I stun the first guy, I strike them, and hopefully we'll get an advantage for the boss fight. And we do. So he's stunned, so I'm going to use the stun from the mug on somebody, but before I do, I'm going to use some weight gain. Is it 4,000? Which Cartman used in the first season to get super fat. Let's have a look. So I'm going to try mugging the boss. Is he immune? He is not immune. So there you go. Boss is stunned. There's only one guy conscious and able to attack. And then from every turn from now on, I'm going to throw darts just to get that bleed up. Or am I? What in the hell am I doing? Maybe checking the capture software. I have to, because I've been getting a lot of failed captures recently, and it's wickedly annoying. But he's just gone into the perfect dodging stance, which is exactly as it says, and it hurts him because he's got so many status effects. He's going to be killed by the status effects, and the boss, he's very close to dying. In fact, the next turn, the boss is dead. So he's going to space taser. I don't think he's got any stasis effects, no he ain't. Here comes the boss, then the boss dies. Oh shit, he didn't die. We got a tough one on our hands, but he's about to. See you later, bro. And then we've just got this guy who's in his dodging stance. So 2 perfect guards and a counterattack. You'd think it'd do more damage than it does. And I'm going to test out to see if the ability hits him when he's in perfect dodge. And it does, which is good to know. And that is the end of the boss fight. So now that we've done that, you can hit the console, you can loot the bodies. I believe you get a really good vibrator weapon in this place, or like an alien anal probe bat or something, but you're not high enough level to use it, and if I had one criticism of the way the game works, it's a criticism that exists in a lot of RPGs, and it's level-specific gear. And the reason that it bugs me is because you can never truly get overpowered. Like, I think knowledge should be rewarded, and if there is a super amazing weapon, you should be able to get it from the very beginning of the game and wreck the game, if you know how to, you know. It shouldn't be able for anybody to do it, but if you have the skill and the knowledge, you should be able to. And unfortunately, a lot of balancing in difficulties these days completely disagrees with that mentality, and thus we have caps that stop you from getting too retardedly strong. I'm really curious too as to what constitutes the loading, because some doors you go through and it's fine, other doors you go through and they're always a mandatory load. And the game loads quite frequently, which is unfortunate. But now that we've got the crystal, we can hit this door. Once you hit this door, it's going to take you to the pilots and the air hostess that are all wearing appropriate equipment, which I found incredibly funny my first time through. And I believe there's a Chin Pokemon in this room that you're not going to see me grab. I think it's up on the monitor. Yeah, it is, you can see it. But I don't get it. And then this is the boss fight. Well, I say boss fight. It's just two pilots that do Charlie's Angels poses. And, you know, you've already fought the aliens. The only difference here is that there's a generator that's going to give them shields. So, like any, you know, passively buffing bitch in a fight, you want to attack the machine first before you attack the dudes. And for some reason, I decide to mug one of the aliens first to stop them from attacking me, which I suppose is a decent idea if they weren't immune, and I'd forgot that fact. So I end up taking quite a few turns worth of damage before I even get anywhere in the fight, which is a little unfortunate. But I'm just going to use this turn to heal, and then from the heal it's going to, hopefully, does it give me a buff or do I not have that ability yet? I do. So that's why we got the passive increase attack power when we use a healing item, because it's really useful and you're going to be using a ton of them, because the game's just kind of designed that way. I use the backstab to do some critical damage on the machine, but it doesn't kill it, which is a shame. This move here can be guarded, but it's at the last possible instance. It's very fast, and I don't think I did it then. Oh, and I'm burning too, which is not good. So I'm probably going to get rid of the status effect with the cure potion, and then from this point onwards I'm going to just destroy that machine if I can. A good ability for situations like this where you needed to heal but you weren't able to, or that you chose not to, is the, I forget the name of it, but it's the one where you turn into like 5 ninjas and you attack from all sides, because that is an ability, just like Mug, just like a few of them in fact, that when you level them up enough they heal you, and that one heals you quite a lot. Like there's a particular upgrade to your weapons that adds vampirism to them, so you can get life back per hit. And if you have like the circular saw throwing star thing, which hits like 6 times, you can get a ton of life back if you've got the plus 250 HP. You know, there's a lot of unique strategies to the game, which I found it confusing when I watched some of the reviews call, you know, the combat not really simple. And it is simple, but there is quite a decent amount of depth. Like, I think there's more depth in this game than there was in A Lost Odyssey, which is a game that a lot of people loved, you know, for its combat, which I will never understand, because I thought the combat in that game was horrendous, you know. The guy worked on Final Fantasy X and he somehow managed to make a turn-based system of combat involving walls inferior to the previous ones. Like, I'll never agree with that combat. Except for those circles that you could time, and they didn't even utilise those very well. But that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you for watching, and you take care now.